guys. So, the end of the year is happening. The end of the year is coming up. And, this year I've really wanted to sit back. And as you can see, and if anybody knows or listens to the podcast, you know that I really haven't been posting a lot or haven't been, you know, uh, putting out content. And the reason why is just honestly, I've just had a very busy year. But I want to post things that are going to be beneficial for our listeners. I don't just want to post stuff just to post it. I'm probably very different from a lot of people because I don't care about the numbers. I don't care about just the fame or people liking stuff. I want people to get something out of this podcast. I started a podcast in 2017 because I felt like patients needed to know more. I felt like dental students needed to know what they were getting themselves into. I felt like residents needed to know what they were getting themselves into. I felt like dentistry needed to be challenged and held to a higher standard. And we started off and we were having fun, and I had some great co-hosts and so forth. But it's gotten to the point where now I feel like there's not much to talk about. And if I do see something that is worth talking about, I'm not sure if it's going to be well received. And I say that because I don't know what anybody wants anymore. I go online and I see people that are now influencers and putting out just stuff that to me doesn't help anything, but just basically perpetuate lies about dentistry. And I don't want to be involved in that. I don't care to be involved in that. I don't think dentistry is fun for anybody anymore. And that's sad because I remember getting into dental school and being so grateful, being so happy, being so appreciative of just the opportunity to be a dentist. I've wanted to be a dentist since I was 10 years old. I mean, I broke my front tooth, my dentist fixed it, Dr. Greenberg, and I thank you for that. But it was something that changed my life, and I wanted to give back and do the same thing to somebody, some young kid one day. But it's as you get through dental school and as you get into dentistry, you realize that there's a lot of things that weren't told to us or felt like you were lied to, and you don't realize how much of a business dentistry becomes. You feel like you go into it with such great intentions. Every time I talk to a student, a pre-dental student, and I say, "What do you want? Why do you want to be a dentist? What do you want to get out of this?" They always say, "I want to help people." Then I talk to them when they get out of school, and that response is not really there anymore. It's more of, let me pay my student loans back. How do I make money? I need to survive. I need to live. And you're thinking to yourself, well, as a dentist, when you make over $100,000, that's really living. You are making more than probably what, top 10% of Americans, if not more, right? You're in the top 10% of Americans. And I'm not talking about the world. The world, to be the top 1%, you have to just make $32,000. To be top 10 in America, you have to make over 100,000. So you're doing well financially, but it doesn't feel like it because student loans are so ridiculous, right? You have to pay so much. You pay to play. You pay so much just to get into school, get out of school, and you don't even know what you got from school. I talked to a friend of mine who is an administrator who actually works as a professor at a school, a dental school. And I say, yo, hey, let me ask you, man, why is this so expensive? Why is dental school so expensive? And he said to me, well, students want the best. They want technology, new technology, and that cost. They want new information. We want new things. We want things to be shiny. We want things to be new, but that comes with a cost. He used an example. When we were in school, we had schedulers. We would take our patients downstairs and we would schedule our patients. And the funny thing about this is this. When you went to go schedule them, you had four areas you can go to, and the person that was sitting there would schedule your patient for you. Then the schools turned it over to a software where you can schedule the patient yourself. But the one thing that happens is the schedulers were no longer needed. So they left and they were laid off or whatever it may be. But what you did was you replaced the schedulers that made, we'll use a round number, made $20 an hour. And now you've given that job to someone to maintain that software, a software engineer, computer scientist, whatever it may be, information scientist. So now those people are making $40 an hour. So not only have you replaced them with one person, but you've also kept the same as two people, right? Because now you've basically paid that person to maintain the software, double what you paid the two schedulers. And that's what happens. Not only are you paying for the front end with the software cost, now you're basically paying also to maintain that software. You don't want the network to go out, so you pay for someone for the networking. You don't want the software to go out if it does go out, you want someone to come in and fix it. You have to pay them. So the increase in technology, which is great, we all can agree technology is wonderful, but it also comes at a cost. Inflation is something that everybody's talked about this year. And that is also true in dental, right? The cost of material has gone up. So, of course, the schools are absolutely going to put that burden onto the student. And then here's something that a lot of students don't understand. When it takes you 3 hours to do one fill-in, that's not profitable for anybody. But that school has no choice but to teach you. So they're going to put you in there. You're going to do that 3 hour fill-in. And God bless the patients that have the patience to help a student to become the best he can be. But that is not profitable for anybody. So that cost is also associated with that. You're paying to basically not make the school money. So you have to subsidize it some other way. And that's how he, described it to me. He says students are not profitable. It costs a lot of money to run a school. And so therefore the tuition has to keep going. And the funny thing is there's not going to be a cap. There's some schools that are charging students 100,000 a year, if not more. Why can they do that? Because they know that the students will always take out student loans, the government will support them, and so forth. But what do students get out of it? Not much. If you have to be completely honest, you get out of it enough to graduate, to say that you graduated from a dental school, for the government to say you graduated from a dental school because you went to an accredited school, and then you get out and you get a license, and that license just gives you freedom to say, I am a dentist, I am a doctor, and so forth. When you see a patient and the patient sits down, they're basically trusting you that you know what you're doing. But let's be completely honest. Most students that graduate from dental school know maybe 20-30% of what they should really know. The rest of it is learned on the job. But here's the problem. You're coming out into a world that has no patience for you, that has no patience for you to learn. Because when somebody hires you and pays you over $100,000 a year, they expect results. They expect that you can pay that back, return on their investment, because they're invested in you. You may think that, oh, well, Dr. So-and-so brought me on and says that they're going to teach me everything they know. Most people that hire associates, they don't want to hire the associates because they want to sit there and hold their hands and so forth. Most of them are hiring them so that they do less. Let's be completely honest. They don't want to hire you because they want to do more. They want to hire you because they want to do less. But unfortunately, they promise these kids, and I say kids respectfully, but they promise you students, new grads, the world. Corporations, they do the same thing. They come into your schools, they tell you should work for this company because we will give you this and we'll pay you this and that and that. But if you look at your actual contract, it comes with so much, this and oh, let's not talk about this, let's not talk about that. Your contract comes with so much limitation that if you really think about it, you're not going to get paid what they promised you. Some companies, some offices will say, oh, you'll get 200,000, 250 easily. But if you look at your contract, it's based on what you actually can produce. And most students go from working and maybe seeing one or two patients a day, four patients a day, maybe, to now having to see 10, 16, 20, 25 patients a day. Now tell me this, and this goes for our listeners who are patients, our dental students, our new grads. You guys come out and no wonder you feel overwhelmed. How could you possibly go from seeing four people to now seeing 10, 15, 20 people in a day? But that's what you're thrown into. And you wonder why you're so angry. You wonder why you're so disappointed. You wonder why you're so just disillusioned by dentistry. It's not fun. You're put into an environment that doesn't help you. You're put in an environment that will not let you grow. And don't get it wrong. A lot of people will promise you, oh, well, you have colleagues you can reach out for. But if you're busy all day, who wants to go home and then start writing emails about, look at my case and can you help me out? Most people don't want to deal with dentistry after they're done with work. So those colleagues that they promise you may not actually be available or want to help you. And if they do want to help you, let's be completely honest, they're doing it just to make themselves feel better. But then they're telling you, well, why don't you already know this? Or what's going on with this? Why don't you know this? And what's happening with this? And this is what I would do. And this is what I would do. But you have to understand that you don't have the same knowledge or hand skills that they would do, right? They may tell you, oh, I would place an implant here and here, but they haven't given you the basic knowledge that you need to know in order to understand what they're talking about. If I go to a mechanic and I'm like, hey, my car's busted down and I have a mechanic website and I can just type them, hey, this is my problem. They're like, well, you need to go ahead and buy this, an alternator, and you need to buy this and that and that. I may go, oh, well, I appreciate it. I might have to look it up and Google it, but then I have to sit down and actually try to repair my car. And there's knowledge that comes with years of experience, with people showing you, people being patient with you. And it gets to the point where you just go, you know what, enough is enough. Let me just go ahead and hire somebody who knows more. And that's the problem. We're throwing our young dental associates and our young dentists into a world where it's not forgiven. Patients have less patience for you. You know, your 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 person that hired you, your lead doctor or whatever you want to call them, have less patience because they hired you so they can do less. Why would they now want to take on the burden of having to teach you? That's what they thought dental school was for. That's what they thought residency was for. And the funny thing is, after somebody gets out and they worked for 5 years, I always say this, just because you worked 5, 10 years doesn't necessarily mean you did it well or did it right for 5 to 10 years. It just means you worked 5 to 10 years. You survived 5 to 10 years. A lot of dentists just do the same thing. They do the bare minimum. They become so scared to be sued that they just basically say, let me just do whatever and ignore the stuff that I don't know. Instead of saying, let me go learn, they ignore the stuff that I don't, they say, hey, I don't know this, let me just ignore it, or tell the patient that it's not needed, or just ignore it. And some dentists are so afraid of losing patients that they don't even want to refer the patients out. They'll rather just keep the patient in house just because they either don't want to send the patient out and lose that patient, or they don't want somebody to see their work. Dentists, we are so judgmental. We're all in this together, but we are so judgmental. Now imagine if we worked well together, we helped each other. We didn't judge each other. We didn't talk bad about each other because we wanted patient. Oh, well, I wouldn't have done that if I was this, this, and this. You weren't even there. How could you talk bad about somebody when you weren't there? But we do this because we want to basically get the patient to trust and say, oh, well, you sound like you know what you're doing. So I'm going to talk bad about that person. I'm going to write a bad review and then I'm going to come to you. If that patient is willing to write a bad review for your colleague, what makes you think they're not willing to write a bad review about you because somebody else, another colleague of yours, is talking bad about you? Patience. I'm asking you and I'm telling you, do your due diligence. Ask questions. If a dentist doesn't take their time to sit down and explain things to you and you feel rushed, what makes you think they're going to do a good job when it matters? Dentistry has become all about quantity over quality. And I'm not saying this lightly. Insurance is paying us less, so we feel like we have to do more. Most dentists are just going from one room to another, just trying to get stuff done. I really believe the best way to understand if you are in good hands is when somebody sits down and explains everything to you, so you feel like you've been heard and you've been educated. It shouldn't be the first time when somebody tells you something like, hey, this is why you have this and this is why you have that. Us dentists, we've gotten to the point where we're very good at repair and replace, but we are horrible at prevention. We don't do a good job preventing. Imagine if we were to educate our patients and teach them how not to get a cavity, teach them how not to get gum disease. I'd be bored. As the periodontist, I'd be incredibly bored, but at least I know patients will keep their teeth longer. Our diets and our environment do not help. Everybody seems to be more stressed than they were pre-COVID. We're eating worse than we've ever eaten. We have things that are just not good for our bodies, our spirits, or our soul, whatever it may be, whatever you believe in, it's not good. We're stressed more. We're depressed. Medications aren't helping. And instead of having conversations and trying to prevent a lot of this issue, which will lead to teeth being broken, teeth needing to come out, needing root canals, needing dentures, needing implants. Now imagine if we sat down and actually said, hey, this is your issue, this is your problem, this is what you do to prevent from getting worse. And then imagine if patients actually listened. Patients are so quick to want to buy, oil pull and things where you have to swish in your mouth for like 20 minutes. But you tell them to brush for 2 minutes and it's a problem. You're willing to spend money on gadgets and things that really don't work, have very weak science. But when we tell you to go brush it, go get a $2 brush, floss, that's too much time and effort. But then you'll go on Instagram and you'll see water pulling. I'm sorry, I said water pulling, oil pulling, and all these other, water picks and all these other things that are designed to get you to spend more money, and you're happy to do that. But the simplicity of things like a toothbrush, floss, any toothpaste, and I don't even want to get into fluoride versus non-fluoridated or whatever. If you have fluoride in your water and you don't use fluoride toothpaste, okay. But use the fluoride toothpaste at a small amount of time. That's why we talk about pea size. You don't need to slab it on from one end of your toothbrush to the other. A pea size amount would do just fine. You don't have to waste your money on buying toothpaste with sprinkles and fairy dust and all that stuff. That's for my kids. That's not for you guys. Keep it simple. People always say, oh, well, I have a water pick or I have this water cleaner and all this other stuff. And I tell them, like, well, that's great. But now imagine if you would have spent $3 on the floss. That would be cheaper. You'd probably get more out of it and you'd prevent more disease. We have so many things that I personally don't see the research to back it up, but it's a means to selling. A lot of us will go to a mechanic and feel like we've been robbed, we've been bamboozled, we've been sold something that we don't need, right? We can go to a car dealership and feel the same way. We shouldn't go to a dentist and feel that too. But I've talked to patients and they feel like they've been bamboozled. They feel like they've been sold and oversold on things that they don't need. And I bet you most of the things you do need, it's just that no one sat down and actually explained it to you properly. It's become such a monetized career that I don't know what we could do to reverse it. I understand that dentists and doctors and so forth have worked hard and should be paid very well. I say sometimes paid more than basketball players and football players, but people see the benefits in basketball players and football players because they give them entertainment. But unfortunately, they don't see the benefits in dentists because we haven't shown them the benefit. We are probably one of the few professions where we are racing to the bottom, where we are basically saying, let me give you as much free stuff as possible, thinking that if we get you in our chair, we can then sell you on other stuff. And I said sell you because a lot of people, that's what they're doing. That's what corporations are trying to get you to do. That's what offices are trying to get you to do is sell, 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 sell. And if you don't believe that you're a salesperson, then you're lying to yourself. We have to do better. 2025 is coming up. And I implore you, dentists and patients and everybody, we have to start figuring out how to make dentistry fun. We have to figure out how to make dentistry enjoyable. We have to figure out how to make dentistry something that we would all want to go to. I would love to get up and go see patients and everybody enjoy themselves, but I know that's not reality. I know there's a lot of things that happen in people's lives, but at least come in with the knowledge that you're trying to do the best for patients and believe it versus saying, I have a quota, I have numbers to hit. I've been so blessed in my life, and I really mean that from the bottom of my heart. I've been so blessed in my life that I don't sit there and chase money. I sit there and I say, what can I do to help you? And I've actually promised myself that I'm not going to push to get you to do anything. I'm just going to give you the knowledge as my patient, and it's up to you to make the decision on whether or not you want to do what I recommended. I give you the knowledge, and then it's up to you to do what you want to do. I know I ranted on for a while, and I really appreciate you guys listening. I just needed to get this off my shoulder, off my chest. It's been too long, and I really sat there and I really meditated and thought about this, and I was trying to figure out how do I get this year-end review. And I could have brought on people like I've done in the past, but I wanted to just sit there one-on-one with my listeners and to just really tell you, I really appreciate everything you guys have done. And I pray that, this podcast has helped you in some way. And I don't know how long this podcast is going to be here. And I hope that there's enough archive for you to learn something from the 200 plus episodes that we've had. But I really believe this when I say that dentistry is such an amazing field. And I just think that we're going the wrong direction. There are doctors that now just don't even want to do anything but sell to companies just to cash out. And that's sad because those dentists are the ones that we need to learn from. That they're the ones that the new generation, the young guys and women need to learn from. But they're fed up with dentistry because of insurance, because of patients, because of business, running a business. All these things are leading towards us not really doing anything beneficial for our patients and who we're here to serve. So I say this with all respect and with all love. I hope that we get the most we possibly can out of dentistry. I hope that we get a chance to really evaluate dentistry. And going forward, if you have any concerns or want to talk about anything, just contact me, real, REAL, dentist with an S, at gmail.com. I'll bring you on. We'll talk. I just want to have a conversation with people that are going to be very honest about what's happening. A part of me wants to do a segment where we basically just talk, just ask dentists and patients and everybody like how they're feeling, what they thought dentistry was going to be, and what it ended up being. Because I can guarantee you a lot of people aren't getting what they expected out of dentistry. Thank you for listening. As I always say, I really appreciate you guys, and I hope that this finds you guys and we're able to have an honest conversation about dentistry. So keep it up and just enjoy. Thank you guys. Thank you for listening to this episode of Truth Be Told. The opinions on this episode are just that, our opinions. Please consult your dental professional before taking any action with your dental health. If you have any questions about anything you heard on this episode, please contact us at Real Dentist with an S. That's REAL Dentist with an S at gmail.com. We would be very happy to return any message that we receive because we love the communication that we have with our listeners.